Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled police officer blocked my driveway off my private property and then harassed my wife. Here is what happens when you mess with my family. The first one starts like this. Me and my fiance moved into this new place back in April. We've been living here since then. The town I live in is incredibly small and only has around 150 to 200 people, maybe more. The cops around here are notorious for pulling people over. There is a major highway that runs between here and Cincinnati. They are most always out on that road because the city jurisdiction extends across that highway. They almost are never monitoring what's happening in town though. Fast forward until now. So there was a cop sitting at the four-way in the middle of town that my fiance had passed. She works with horses and drives a truck that is kind of loud. She was pulled over in our driveway for this exhaust issue. She took the loudest exhaust ticket, paid it, we put a new exhaust that helped quiet down the truck, and all is good, right? Nope. So the thing is, this guy knows now where we live. He drives by all the time and he knows when my fiance leaves for work. He follows me now in my 2010 Honda Civic. It's a completely legal car, no real reason for him to be following me, all the time as I do the speed limit, pay my taxes and abide by the law. However, there is an abandoned house across the road where he will sit and clock people. However, it's right across from our home. Today was the last straw for me. When my fiance was leaving for work, he was headed in from town from picking up our cat from the vet. He is sitting at the four-way stop sign in town. He sees us and makes eye contact with us, and then as I'm almost home, begins pulling out. My fiance needed to go to work, so I decided to let her use my car, so that way there was no risk of her being pulled over in her truck, even though we fixed the exhaust like he asked. On her way out, he sees her leaving and pulls up and blocks the driveway, not allowing my fiance to leave. He sits there for about a minute and then drives down the road a bit, waiting for her to pull out so he can stop her. She calls me and says that she is afraid to leave, so I tell her to stay for a bit. He eventually pulled off and pulled over another loud truck. So here's the kicker. My Ring doorbell has the entire occurrence of him blocking our driveway on camera. I've saved a copy to my phone's storage. What can we do about this? This is clearly harassment and this guy does not let up. It's a shame when I'm fearful to leave the privacy of my home because this guy follows us around in an unusual way. Is there any way I can make a city complaint against him to get him to stop? I only fear this will make things a lot worse. Cops are meant to protect and serve, not harass and observe. Feeling lost here, could anyone give me some useful advice? Comment number 1 said, want to make sure this doesn't get bogged down in the local small town department? Well then, have an attorney write a letter to the police commissioner and CC the state attorney general. This type of bullying needs a harsh smackdown in the form of embarrassment amongst departments. Comment number 2 said, call the state police and highway patrol, the county sheriff, the mayor and/or city council, and your state representative. In a town that small, I'm not sure I would even bother calling the city police because I would expect there's so little oversight that you would be ignored at best. Glad you have home cameras, expect further retaliation. Get dash cams too. Comment number 3, calling will more than likely do nothing. Based on your description, it will be a small station. For all you know, the call will go straight to him or a buddy who may even make a gesture of calling you back and then do nothing. At best, someone might call, but phone calls about police behavior are generally not taken that seriously. It could be a disgruntled ticket receiver trying to stir up trouble for a legitimate stop. Happens all the time. If you're really serious and it sounds like you are, go down in person. You have his name from the ticket, ask to speak with his supervisor. If not available, ask to make an appointment with his supervisor. Then make a formal written complaint. Now you have also started a paper trail, just in case he continues. Also, keep that video. If the police want it, give them a copy. Comment number 4, there are a few things you should do here, many of which have been said already. First of all, call the department. In fact, don't just call them, but keep it up if this officer keeps doing this. Meet with his supervisor, be a PITA until they deal with it. Document, keep footage of your Ring doorbell, record any and all interactions with him, get a dash cam front and back, r/dash cam should help, well worth the investment. Also, unless I'm mistaken, your house is on a state highway, or these interactions are taking place on highway roads. If so, this should be, unless I'm wrong, jurisdiction of the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Give them a call. I would not be surprised if getting outside agencies calling in about the behavior of one of their officers is not the type of interagency attention they want. Do not seek out this officer or seek confrontation. Don't acknowledge him sitting across from you. Don't make eye contact. Unless he is interacting with you as a part of his job, a legal traffic stop, or another type of sanctioned legal activity, just don't. Good luck to you, hope everything goes well. Comment number 5. OP, I would suggest you contact an agency far separated from your local law enforcement. It's certainly good for record-keeping purposes to file a complaint to the local law enforcement first, but please beware that they will not do anything meaningful about it. They will basically call you back about it exactly once. If you miss this call, you're not considered in their eyes to be cooperative anymore, and they will do nothing whatsoever. You will not be able to file another complaint again about anything that occurred before your first complaint. A sheriff, only in your county, has a multitude of local departments and not a handful, highway patrol, or maybe the attorney general. Your best bet probably will be a state trooper. You will need the offending officer's star number though. Update to the story. I've received so much amazing information on this post since I made it. Unfortunately, it's a holiday today and I'm gonna try spending today with friends. I am, however, gonna follow up tomorrow with the police department and see if we can figure this out. No updates or calls back as of yet. Another update, I've called about filing a complaint with the police officer in question, but I've yet to get a call back. I'll update everyone when I get a call back if I do. Final update, I'm very pleased to report that things have taken a positive turn in resolving this issue with the harassing police officer. So first of all, I took advice from the comments and filed an official written complaint with the county sheriff's office as well as the state highway patrol. I provided details of the specific incidents where the officer blocked my driveway and followed and observed my home. Included still images and video clips from my Ring doorbell camera as evidence too. Within a few days I received a call back from a sergeant with a highway patrol. He took my complaint very seriously and said that they would open an internal investigation. A couple troopers came to my home to get my full statement and collect all of my evidence. A week later, the sergeant informed me that the investigation had concluded and sustained the allegations of harassment and misconduct against a local officer. As a result, formal disciplinary charges would be brought against him through the local police department. I was advised to attend the disciplinary hearing. At the hearing, the evidence I provided was presented and the highway patrol investigators testified about their findings. The officer did not deny the allegations and had no good explanation for his actions. As a result, he was terminated from the police force immediately due to a breach of public trust and patterns of unprofessional conduct. I'm relieved this ordeal is over and that appropriate accountability and consequences were applied. While disappointing that such an abuse of power occurred in the first place, I'm glad the system worked to resolve the situation properly through a transparent process. I hope this serves as a lesson to other officers and reassures the public that misconduct will not be tolerated. Thank you to everyone who offered advice here. It was invaluable in achieving a fair outcome. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy these legal advice stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment, because that would be very much appreciated. The next one is a story from r/pettyrevenge. A few years back, I was working at a hotel. My job was the shuttle driver for airline crews and I also had to load and unload their luggage. About 6 months into the job, my wrists started hurting from handling the loads of bricks that airline crews like to pack. I ended up having to file a workers' compensation claim, but there was no one else to handle the luggage, so I struggled along for a while. I had asked to be moved to a front desk position but was offered laundry, which would not have been much easier on my wrist. A couple of months of going to doctor appointments and getting MRIs, I finally decided that I'd had enough and had a doctor write me a note stating that I needed lighter duty. Yeah, I should have done that much earlier, but the boss, Beth, was not being helpful at all and I knew that would be the end of my working there. In the meantime, a front desk position had opened up, which my boss promptly filled without asking me if I even wanted it. I went into her office to ask about this apparent oversight and got some corporate speak in response. A bit of context, the hotel was right next to a major highway. I knew the back roads between the airport and the hotel, so traffic jams on the highway were not a huge deal to me. When I went into the boss's office to have the above conversation, we were 2 days away from having the president visit the city. That meant that most traffic would come to a standstill, but airline crews still needed to get to their flights. After my boss gave me a thinly veiled corporate-approved F off, I pulled the documents note out of my pocket. Sorry, I can no longer perform the job of shuttle driver. You have offered me laundry which won't work and didn't want to work with me on a front desk position. Have fun in traffic on Thursday. The shocked Pikachu look on her face was priceless. She called another manager into the office to try to get me to stay. Laundry was mentioned again. Get it through your thick skull that laundry will not help an overuse injury on my wrist. I then simply pointed to the note and said, I cannot do anything that will be hard on my wrist. I've asked more than once about front desk, which I'm more than capable of doing, but I guess that is not an option now that Beth filled the position. I heard later from a coworker that Beth herself had to do the shuttle runs that day. I enjoyed my day on the couch and occasionally checked to see how screwed traffic was. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. And by the way, before I forget to ask, I'm curious, have you ever been involved in any sort of petty revenge in your own life? And if so, what happened? I would love to hear from you in the comments. I, 27 female, am vehemently child-free. I'm sterilized and have no intention of having or caring for any child. I married my husband, 33 male, last year and did not know that he had any children until 5 days ago. I travel for work for myself and have amazing pay for very few active working hours. I am a honeymoon planner owning my own business. We have a joint account for bills and our own separate accounts for savings and fun money. My husband sat me down 5 days ago and told me that he had not been completely honest with me. He revealed that he has 2 children, 10 male and 7 female. He pays regular child support, however, it dips into his fun money and he wants to be able to have fun like I am, so he said he would fight for 50-50 custody. I was furious that he had lied to me and was even more angry when he told me that he wanted 50-50. What he does is he works 12 to 16 hour shifts as a nurse, and that would mean I would have to take care of the children when I'm not working or I'm working from home. I told him if he fights for custody, I will leave him. We have a prenup, so a divorce will be rather simple. I get 100% of my business, all of my savings and fun money and the house as I inherited it from my grandma. He called me an a-hole and told me I should step up so that he can have more money in his savings and for fun. And because the kids won't be much hassle due to their ages. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling him that I will divorce him if he goes through with filing for custody? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. And honestly, if I would be in OP's shoes, I would not only divorce him if he goes through with filing for custody, but I would by default divorce this guy because this is such an insane lie that I would not want to be together with that person anymore. Also, the request he made is absolutely insanely entitled. How can you continue living with a person like this? Absolutely impossible in my opinion. Anyway, someone on Reddit said, not the a-hole, that's a pretty big effing lie of omission, like weirdly so. The type of thing which should come up in the first few days, not the first few years of marriage. You don't know the man you married at all. He is asking for a very drastic change to the life you guys agreed to, so you are well within your rights to tell him to go F off about that BS. Comment number 2, I would be divorcing him just over the lie itself, not to mention wanting the secret children in your lives and his crappy reason behind it. He is a liar, a bad and absent father, and a manipulative partner. Please divorce him. Comment number 3, you would be an a-hole to yourself if you stayed married to this liar. The dude tricked you from the beginning. It's not like some random ex popped up with a secret kid. He actively lied to you every day that you have known him. And now thankfully we have an update from OP and she says, thank you all so much for helping me with this situation. I knew his lies were enough of a reason to divorce him and I'm proud to announce soon to be ex. I just didn't know if divorcing him with kids in the mix would make me an a-hole, especially because he works so much. He has since vacated my house. I've spoken to my lawyer and I'm filing for an annulment. I can because he married me in an act of fraud. The AMA protects me as it was a fraudulent marriage. Thank you all once again. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. This was about 8 years ago. I had just moved to Australia and gotten a new phone, but as it turns out, my number was someone else's old number. Every other week I would get calls by a tradie who wanted to know why I was not on-site mate or what I wanted done with building project ABC. Every time I explained at length that they got the wrong number, and quite often folks on the other end were absolutely rude or thought that I was taking the piss and insist that I answered their questions or show up on site now. Seriously, I was over it, so I googled my own number and did some digging and eventually found out the guy who had my number before and then his new number and then I called him. I politely explained my dilemma, pointed out that there were two websites still having his old and my now new number, and if he could please change this and let his contacts know about his new number and to delete the old one, as it was getting quite tedious for me. By that time I had used my number for work, visa applications and landlords and friends, and changing it would have been a huge pain. I explained all of that. Well, of course, he was just as pleasant as most of his contacts and told me something along the lines of, "I don't give a damn, mate. That's not my problem. Get effed. Sort your own shout out, mate." Well, the universe provides, and so I got a great opportunity to do just that only a few weeks later. I received a call in the early hours of one morning by another disgruntled guy telling me he was early and demanding to know where I wanted the sand put down and how to get in. I asked what sand and was told that he had a full truckload of sand as ordered and no one was on site and it was all fenced off. Very briefly did I think about launching into my explanation, but I was tired and over it and then realized the opportunity provided. I snapped back at him with no uncertainty. "Mate, it's all good. Dump it all right in the driveway, front of the fence. We'll sort it out when we get there." The guy said, "You sure, mate? It's a lot of sand." Me, "Absolutely sure, mate. Thanks a lot." Him, "Alright then, boss," and hangs up. Well, I go back to bed snoozing for another hour with a big smile until my phone rings again and I see it's old mate with his new number who I had saved when I called him a few weeks ago. I pick up rather chipper and he doesn't waste any time, launching into a series of swear words and how he has no access to the site and that he has to move a literal ton of sand by hand and whether or not I told the sand guy to dump it all there. I replied, "You told me to sort this out myself. This is me sorting this out. You can remove the numbers and let your contacts know or not, totally up to you." He was fuming, called me a few more choice words promising to find me and a lot more before we ended the conversation. However, the numbers disappeared from the internet really quickly after that and I never got another call again. I still have my number and every time I see a truck with sand, I chuckle to myself thinking of this guy moving a ton of sand by hand and losing a fair few hours of labor because he was a douchebag and couldn't be bothered sending a few texts. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. So I am the kind of person that loves nature and wanted to bring some of it to my home with me. This was how I ended up with both a vegetable garden and an area for birds. Bird houses, bird feeders, and even a bird bath are all in my yard. I love watching them and it got to the point that some will stay around that area even if I come outside instead of being scared and flying away. They are not really pets since they are wild, but some of them come a lot and are kind of like pets. Now, my neighbor is a very different person than me, which I don't have a problem with, but she does. She is extremely entitled and has told me many times that I should not do those kind of things on my property because she does not like it. She claims the birds poop everywhere and it just isn't right. I also have had problems in the past with her coming onto my property without permission and her not seeming to care. A couple examples are the times she came to reorganize the table and chairs I have outside because it made no sense the way I had it. Like, seriously lady, that is none of your business and does not affect you. The other thing she tends to do is come to my vegetable garden for various reasons, usually to steal, which is stupid because my neighbors know I'm more than willing to share if they just ask. I plant more than I can eat myself and the rest I donate to neighbors that want them or the local food bank. My issue is that she does not ask and just comes onto the property to take and also does not know how to do it properly. She has taken out plants that were not ripe yet and plants all the way from the roots and stepped all over the garden, destroying other things. The thing she hates the most though are the birds. It is a constant fight the two of us have with her yelling at me to get rid of them and me telling her to F off. The birds don't go on her property, they are simply on mine. Still, at least once a week I run into her and get a lecture about how my pets are ruining her life and wake her up in the morning. Birds chirp and sing, nothing I do is making them do that. It is just complaining about the sake of wanting to start a fight with me and I refuse to sit down and take it. One day though, things went way too far. I was out in the yard refilling the bird feeders with seed and overall just checking on things. It was a really nice day and I didn't have anything else to do, so I was spending some free time out there. I heard my absolute Karen of a neighbor on the other side of the fence muttering to herself, but I did not pay her any mind. She was not starting a fight and that was good enough for me. That was around the time I heard the first gunshot go off. For anybody that has not heard a gun going off up close, they are loud and the noise can basically stun you. Mix that with one of the bird houses that I built myself exploding into a million pieces, and it was just chaos. The birds all flew away scared, and before I could react, another shot from the gun went off, and this time it hit the feeder right next to me. A couple of inches to the left and it would have hit me. That was when I saw Karen standing there with a gun and laughing. I was still partially deaf from the first blast, but was getting some of what she was yelling. Something about stupid birds and that will teach them to stay away. I'm pretty sure she was also saying crap about me, but as soon as my hearing came back, I pulled out my phone and called the police. I guess this was not something she was expecting to happen. And of course, ripe stars, these entitled people never expect any consequences to happen. Anyway, Karen, did you seriously just call the police on me? It's legal for me to have this gun on my own property. Me? You could have killed me. Of course, I'm calling the cops on your crazy ass, shooting at the birds and me like some insane person. And even if the gun is legal, you're not allowed to just shoot at people with it. They are gonna throw you in jail for this as attempted murder. At least here, when you call the police telling them somebody has a gun and is shooting at you, they come fast. Karen, I guess, thought she had some time and dropped her gun, running into her house and back outside with a kitchen knife. She hopped over the fence and came right at me with it. The police had arrived and were just getting out of the car and running over, yelling at her to stop. She ended up slashing me with it and cut me pretty badly on my arm. The police, thankfully, since she had a weapon, used a taser to bring her to the ground. She really was crazy enough to attack me in front of the police. Since I was bleeding, they wanted to transport me to a hospital since I was clearly going to need stitches at the very least. Most of the conversation I had with police was at the hospital, and I told them the story and how they could find the broken birdhouse and the bullets in my yard, as well as the gun she left on her side of the fence. It was more than enough evidence on top of what they saw happen to get her arrested for assault and possibly attempted murder. I needed some stitches and they gave me antibiotics because with a kitchen knife you never know where it had been before cutting me. I was really shaken up about everything, and after that whole ordeal it was nighttime and I was ready to get home and collapse into bed. Before I end the story though, I just want to give a quick update of what happened to Karen when it came to the court situation. While she was found guilty of assault and of basically not cooperating with police when they tried to arrest her, they also found her guilty of misusing a firearm, which meant she would never be allowed to legally use one again. For attempted murder, it was found that there was not enough evidence to convict her of that because her story was that she only wanted to attack the birds and had no idea I was standing outside at the time. Also, no previous death threats or really anything to show that she wanted me dead. Still, she was gonna do time behind bars and I was able to get a restraining order as well. Because of that, she is now not allowed to live at her house since she would be considered too close to me. I think her cousin or something took over the lease and moved in, but I'm not sure. I never spoke to them and I honestly don't want to. I did rebuild my birdhouse and feeder that got destroyed, and the birds after a while did cautiously return. My arm healed with no permanent damage and only a small scar to remind me of the entire incident. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.